spent the last 4 months looking for my next walleye boat. I ended up finding it. I'll showcase that at the end of this video. But in doing so, I ended up coming across, we'll call it, some characters, and I'm going to share those stories with you today, and hopefully it can prevent you guys from coming across these types of characters, what to look for in finding that particular boat to purchase. And, I think boat buying maybe has changed a little bit, or really anything has changed in the last probably 10, 15, 20 years with social media and the way it works nowadays. And there are some characters or charlatans out there that you have to be careful with. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that right now, and hopefully saves you folks some issues when you buy your next boat. Let's go over all of that right now. So in buying a boat, I knew what I was looking for, and I made sure that I opened myself up a little bit, meaning I wasn't going to pinhole myself to one particular boat. Now, I am fascinated with Crestliner. My old boat is a Crestliner, and it was been a good boat to me, and I'd be open to getting another Crestliner. But I wasn't going to just only get Crestliner. London and Alumacraft are also on that list, and I know there's other very good boats, and I could go fiberglass as well. But for a person who fishes by themselves a lot, I need something light enough to be able to handle myself, and I also trailer it quite a bit. I go fish all over the state of Wisconsin. So I didn't want something, that was too hard on the old gas wallet. Now, with that being said, I'll do my homework. And one of the nice things about shopping for 4 months for a boat, you start to get an idea of what a boat is worth. And that's everything from the electronics that are on it or come with it, to the trolling motor, to the kickers, to the horsepower, and everything in between. Now, I had a particular, we'll call it, length in mind as far as what boat I wanted lengthwise, capacity, motor capacity of the boat. And I always try to buy a boat with the motor maxed out. I've found out that if the motor is not maxed out on a particular boat, in most cases, most individuals regret that decision. Now, if you've been on planet Earth long enough, you'll know that people do people things. And what that means is that there's not always the brightest out there. There's also the individual that always try to pull the wool over your eyes, per se. And you just always have to kind of look out for that. So the first boat that I went to go look at, I ended up finding it on Facebook Marketplace. I go on there, and the boat looked immaculate. It looked very clean and sharp. And then the price that they had listed on it, it really fit into my budget. And I'm like, you know what? I want to look at this boat. And I've learned that if you see a good deal on a boat, you need to act on it immediately. And, I had everything from the bank already taken care of. I already had $500 in my pocket, carrying that around essentially, for if I found a boat, I can go right after work if I had to, and then lay money down if everything looked good and checked out good. Now, this particular boat was essentially 2 hours away, and boat popped up on Marketplace. I texted the individual immediately and came up to go look at it. Once again, looking at the pictures that the person put on there, and everything looked good. I drive up there, I get up there, and the boat was kept outside. Okay, it had a cover on it, all right? But as the owner pulled the cover off, there is moss growing in the carpet. Okay, this boat is only 4 years old, so it should be in really good shape. And not only that, the pictures showed it like it was brand new. But that essentially was the kicker, pun intended, that the pictures the individual put on there on Facebook Marketplace was when he bought it brand new. So as he pulls the cover off, there's leaves, there's dirt in the bottom of the boat. And then as I go to inspect the dashboard of this Alumacraft, it had spider webs, meaning spider cracks all over the entire dash. And I'm like, what is this from? And immediately, I knew that I wasn't going to purchase the boat just from that condition. And he goes, oh, he said, yeah, Alumacraft for a while there, they had some issues with their dashboard. And, they offered me to be able to get this replaced for free, but I was just too lazy to take it in and have that done. Well, that's pretty much a huge red flag, meaning that if you're too lazy to take your boat back in to have that dashboard replaced for free by Alumacraft, what else were you too lazy on? Were you too lazy to change the oil? Were you too lazy to put ethanol-free fuel into your boat? And, I'm like, I'm sorry. Uh, I'll pass on your boat today. Now, I was actually pretty livid that I drove 2 hours one direction and had to drive 2 hours back, essentially just to look at a boat, but that's how it goes when you're buying used. So with that being said, made the trip home that night, and sure enough, I go back on, look at the Facebook page, and yep, he had pictures from when he bought it brand new. Now, the next character I came across didn't cost me any fuel. It was just that, he had a boat out there that I really liked. It had everything I was looking for as far as electronic setup, trolling motor setup, and it just met all my criteria in finding a walleye boat. But with that being said, when you look at boats for 2, 3, 4 months, once again, you get an idea of what you're looking to purchase. And this particular boat, or this particular individual, I contacted him, and, I gave him a price based on everything that I've been seeing out there, and it was a fairly fair price. If I had to come up just a little bit, I'd make that happen. And I'm sure, I'm expecting that we could work together a little bit on it. And he was not going to budge at all. Gave him a price. He said, absolutely not. And I didn't think it was that much of a price difference that I gave him. Of course, everybody's subjective. But I asked him, what price would you sell it at? And he said, what price I have listed right here. And I thought he was very abrupt about it, and to me it was like, does he really want to sell the boat? But with a little further inspection into his Facebook Marketplace profile page, that wasn't the only boat essentially that he was selling. He had 2 other boats that he was selling, and then you could look back on the history of him, and the last 8, 9 years, he probably sold about 15, 16 boats. And he wasn't a boat dealer. He was just an individual who was a boat flipper. And put 2 and 2 together, he's not really looking to sell a boat because he wants to purchase his next fishing boat. Well, he wants to purchase his next boat he can make money on. He was just looking for deals, purchase them, and he wants the max amount of money that he can get, and hopefully somebody comes along and gives him that. So what I'm trying to say is, don't be afraid to go look at their, marketplace profile. They have the ratings on there. You have to be careful. There could be some ratings that maybe just somebody didn't like somebody and gave them a bad review or bad star. But, all of a sudden when I went there, I could see that this guy was a boat flipper, and he had no intentions of coming down on that particular price. And once again, I've been boat shopping for quite a while. I know what these particular boats and these particular years go for. And he was asking way too much, I thought, for the boat. Matter of fact, as we speak of today, that boat is still for sale, but he's just hoping maybe a sucker comes along and gives him what he's looking for that boat. So be it. It's a, capitalist society, and if he gets the money he wants for his boat at that price, so be it. The long story short, just kind of keep an eye on who you're purchasing, these boats from. And you don't have to go and dive into their whole history, but it's not a bad idea to at least look at their Facebook Marketplace profile. Now, this next boat was the most frustrating, and I'm sure it was frustrating for the seller. It was definitely frustrating for me. So I found this boat on Facebook Marketplace. It was a Alumacraft. It was the length of the boat that I wanted, the right electronics I was looking for, and I drove 6 hours one direction north of Minneapolis to look at this particular boat. And when I get there, I'm doing the inspection of the boat. Everything looks good. The boat looked like it was in pretty good shape, pretty good condition. It was only a couple years old. I went over the electronics and essentially the lockers and opened up all the compartments until I opened up the very last compartment. And that's where the batteries were kept. And when I opened up the battery compartment, the batteries and the circuit breaker were laying in water. Now, this water was roughly 4 to 6 inches, somewhere in there. I didn't take time to measure, but it was definitely in water. And, I looked at it, I'm thinking to myself, we have a problem. The hull of a boat shouldn't have water in it. Now, granted, he had a custom cover made for it. The cover, when I pulled it off, it was on essentially since last fall, and it was all tight all the way around, right up to the motor. And then there's that tray in the back, so if rain even came and landed on the cover, it would go back into that tray with those little portholes, and it would go back out of the boat. Now, the individual said, well, maybe rain, water got in there, which it could have somehow with the cover being on it. But I'm like, well, if there's a cover on it and that's not keeping the rainwater out, and I may have to keep this boat outside because I do some camping trips to northern Wisconsin with it, and the cover's not working, well, that's not a good sign. And to me, this was a custom-made cover. This wasn't just a run-of-the-mill cover. This is a very high-end cover. And I'm looking the cover over, and there's no holes. So how did that water get in there? Then the individual says to me, well, you know what? I think that when they put the boat away in fall, stored at a marina, that they might have left the boat out, okay? And maybe some snow or some rain got in it, and it was then maybe just stored with water in the hull. And I don't think he thought that was that big of a deal, but northern part of Minnesota, Wisconsin, it freezes. And matter of fact, earlier this spring, I was up on the Fox River in De Pere, and I met an individual who had a Lumacraft. This particular boat was a Lumacraft. Not that that really makes a difference, but he had an issue where he forgot to get the water out, or didn't realize he had water in his hull as well. And the water froze in the hull where you have your pipes, your PVC pipes, or whatever piping you have for your bilge and your, live well and all that good stuff, and it cracked it. And matter of fact, when he would go to intake water, part of the water would go into his live well, and then the other part would go into his boat. And I thought to myself, wow, what a coincidence of that happening only just a few months prior to seeing that, and then seeing this. And I just, told the individual, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy your boat. And he didn't think it was that big of a deal. But I'm like, there's no way that I am handing over a check worth this much money and then have it in the back of my mind that I am taking a boat home that right off the bat could be giving me problems, and I might have to be spending thousands of dollars to get fixed. And I said, I'm not taking that chance. I'm not, I wasn't born yesterday, and I've been around enough fishing boats to know that these things happen, and you have water in the hull of your boat. And however it got in there, it got in there. And then it's your word versus mine. And the safest thing for me to do is just to walk away. And I'm sure, if that piping was cracked, maybe the owner had it checked out, taken it back to the marina, had it looked over. That would be the right thing to do. But who knows? Maybe he just sold it to the next guy that came. Matter of fact, mentioned that there was a guy coming that afternoon to look at it if I didn't take it. So 6 hours one direction, 6 hours back, 12 hours. A lot of gas. That's my time that I could have been doing something else, and came back with no boat. So that was extremely frustrating, and that leads you to thinking about buying new. Well, folks, I finally found a boat that fit my needs. I was going to buy brand new, but then that would have got me out of my budget, and I just do not like getting out of my budget. I really don't feel right about it, just because I was essentially frustrated for a few months, and I know I might have had buyer's regret in regards to that. Matter of fact, the individual I bought this particular boat from, he wishes that he would have came across a deal like I came across in buying his boat, is what he mentioned to me. So this particular boat came on Facebook Marketplace. It was out there actually for about a week or so, which I saw earlier. I'm like, boy, that's a nice boat, but it's just a foot short of what I was looking for. I was looking for a 17.5-foot boat, maybe even 18.5. But once again, because I fish a lot by myself, I wanted something that I could handle easily. And I'm coming from a 16.5-foot boat. But this particular boat was out there, I'm like, well, the price is really a good price on it. And I could save myself quite a bit of money going this particular route. And let's just look into it. And I hate to be one of those guys that kicks the tires, but in this case here, kicking the tire got me to purchase essentially his boat. And I contacted him, asked him if there were any scratches on it, looked in mint condition. He said, no scratches, no dents. And I'm like, that seems almost a little too good to be true. But this particular individual really was only an hour away from where I work. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go check it out. And I go down there to check it out and look at the boat. And I'm like, wow, this really is a well-kept boat. Super nice boat. Now, granted, the boat was essentially 3 years old, but he did buy the boat a year after that model came out. So essentially 2 years old. And then to come to find out, hours-wise, he just got to the 20-hour mark on the boat. So he did all the work of the break-in period of the boat. And now I'm getting it with that break-in period done so I can just take it out and fish. And then he had the inspection done through the place that he bought the boat. You get that 20-hour break-in. And I thought, you know what? I don't know if I can turn this deal down. Granted, I wish it was just a little bit longer, but this particular boat, which was a Crestliner 1650 Fishhawk, same as my 2004 1650 Fishhawk, I'm like, but do I go with it? Do I not? Do I buy new? And we talked about price, and he gave me a really good price on it. And you know what? Looking at the boat, Crestliner changed some things over the years compared to my 2004. This Fishhawk, what they did is they opened up the cockpit area a lot more. They now have that track system. You can put your rods in that rod locker in the middle. That was a huge component that I wanted going forward, instead of always having to just throw them all together in that one space on my old Crestliner. You know, and you're just getting a newer motor that you shouldn't have any issues with. And this boat also comes with 1 more year left on the warranty of the motor. So I'm like, I can't turn this down. And not only that, it would save me roughly $10,000, $12,000 if I had to buy new. I'm very happy with the purchase. And once again, the purpose of this video is just let you folks know that yes, boat buying can be frustrating if you are like me and you're buying a used boat, but there are some good deals to be had. And if you think about it, you know, the hours that you spend looking for a good deal on a boat, you're paying yourself, you know, by me putting in this extra effort of looking for a new to me boat compared to if I bought brand new. Essentially, I saved myself roughly 12 grand. And so if I do the math, hourly, even though I took that one trip north of Minneapolis and back, it was still worth it in the end. So folks, don't give up, as my little sign says here in the back. And you know, if you're looking for that boat, keep looking, and don't settle, and stay within your budget. And then once you get your boat, make sure you get out on the water and get some fish, get that boat slimed. So, you know, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to here, getting my electronics on my boat. If you want to see that component, let me know down below. Let me know if you'd like to see how I'm going to rig my electronics up. I was trying to decide between Humminbird and Garmin. I was going back and forth. I've been a longtime Garmin user, but as a walleye guy, Humminbird has some really good side imaging and awesome down imaging, and they came out with that Explorer 2. So that was on my list of fish finders, and well, let's just put it this way. I did pick a system to go with. And if you'd like to see that system, hit that subscribe button. I can talk about that and show you guys that which direction I went. So hopefully I didn't give away too much of whether I went Garmin or Humminbird, but I did pick a system to go on it. So until next time, Clint from Oak and Iron Outdoors.